tartila, recite the Quran slowly and distinctly. So yeah, this is the reason why, alhamdulillah, all of you are joining these sessions to, read the Quran slowly, distinctly, and in its best way as well. And the best way to do that is, of course, learn to read. And then this very important hadith, خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. The best among you is the one who learns the Quran and teaches it. So inshallah, hopefully, one time you can you'll have the responsibility to teach the Quran either to your, friends, family. Maybe perhaps one of you might become, temporary Quran teacher or even permanent Quran teacher. You never know. It's always a nice thing to learn anyway. So yeah, as I was saying, the common mistakes. So let me just open the page here. So yeah, the common mistakes. So you know how people, when it comes to tajweed, and especially the Arabic language, of course, majority of people who read the Quran are going to be non-Arabs, of course. So it's going to be, some people might find some certain like letters, makharij, they might find it a bit difficult to say. And inshallah, we'll be looking at these common mistakes, and by doing this, inshallah, by looking at the common mistakes, we'll try to overcome the mistakes, so we don't do it ourselves. So inshallah, I think this is going to be the order from Alif to Ya, all the common mistakes of each letter. Yeah, and I really urge everyone to actually pay attention to this, because this is actually really important. So inshallah, without further ado, we'll start with letter Alif. So Alif, the common mistake in Alif is that people add an imala to it. So I'm sure most of you are probably wondering, what is imala? So imala is making so imala is when you make the letter light. So for example, the ayah that we read, وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا, yeah? So the last letter in that وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا, the last letter is alif, yeah? وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا. So tartila, the last letter, of course, is alif. So a common mistake is people say وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا, تَرْتِيلًا, or تَرْتِيلًا. The alif should be tartila. Your tongue must be relaxed, yeah? Tartila, not too light. This is imala when you make it too light. Tartila, not tartila, it's tartila. And imala, there's only one imala in the Quran, I believe, which is in Surah Al-Hud. وقال اركبوا فيها بسم الله مجريها ومرساها. The ra here has imala. مجريها ومرساها. So this is the only imala in the Quran. So every time you say the alif at the end of the letter or the ya, make sure there is an imala to it. Yeah, of course, you probably say the imala without you knowing, until someone actually hears you and tells you that, oh, you're doing imala on this letter alif. So make sure you practice وَتَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا. It's very common. وَرَسُولًا, not وَرَسُولًا, وَرَسُولًا. Yeah, and inshallah we'll read off the Qaida, and we'll try to tackle that very, very common mistake. Next letter, as you can see, is a letter ta. So we need to make sure that the ta in Arabic is different to the t in English, okay? T in English, if you really pay attention, you can hear this kind of noise, like I went to, not that noise. In the Arabic language, there's no t. That noise is not there. It's ta, 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 not ta. That's how it should be. So ta-ibatin, yeah? Not ta-ibatin. Ta-ibatin is wrong. It's ta-ibatin, So this is also another common mistake. Next letter is tha. So between, normally people, not normally, but people now and then, they say the tha between tha and sad. Okay. Also others say it as if it's there. So people get confused between dhal and tha as well. But I'm sure, hearing you, some of you last week, that problem wasn't, too common. And then next letter is ja, Jim. So, yeah, this is another one. So Jim, the Jim problem is very common as well. So a lot of people say ja instead of ja. Yeah. So for example, make sure that it's ja, not j. This kind of noise. J. Make sure you don't make that noise. Yeah, it's ja. For example, I'm thinking of an example here. Let's say for example, وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ. It's not وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ. It's not j, it's buruj. So this is also a very common mistake. Some of you also made that mistake last week as well. But alhamdulillah, after I told you about it, you did, correct yourself. Next letter is ha. Someone asked me, I think it was last week before, that they didn't know the difference between ha and ha. So ha is of course stronger than ha, yeah. And a problem that a lot of people do as well is, thinking that ha is a ha, say it as if it's a ha. It's ha, and ha are two different letters. Inshallah, we look at the ha in maybe a few slides after. Next one is kha. Some people's kha is too weak, so they get confused with the gha as well. Ghain and kha are two different letters. Now next is dal. Oh yeah, a lot of people as well, they get confused with ta, da and ta. So adbar, adbar. So people say adbar. This kind of is between the ta and the da. You need to make sure that the da is clear. Adbar, and the tha is another common one. Sounds like a za. Especially among people from people around Asia, they say there as z, which is wrong. Should be فذرني, not فذرني, فذرني والمكذبين. Okay, make sure there and za are distinct, two different letters. And then you got next one is a ra. Some people's ra are too weak. So I even got, believe it or not, Arabs got this problem. Yeah. I see this very, very common amongst Arabs, believe it or not. Instead of ra, they say فاصبر لحكم ربك it shouldn't be it should be of course you don't make it too much just make sure you say it, just make sure it's not for example والأحبار, it's والأحباري, that noise, make sure it's there. والأحباري بما استحفظوا. A lot of people say والأحباري ri. This is a very common mistake which should be avoided. And then seen as well. Some people's this is another common one amongst Arabs as well, subhanallah. The seen is, the tongue is too far back. So when you see the letter seen, make sure your tongue is near your teeth, okay? And the tongue is not too far back. If it's too far back, that means you're saying it wrong. For example, sabbih, not like that. If you do put your tongue too far back, it will sound like a sad, yeah. And as we know, sad is another different letter, totally different letter. This is seen, sabbih isma rabbika al-a'la. Now the next letter, sad. We just said it now. Sad and seen, two different letters. When you say the sad, make sure your lip, your mouth is round. Okay, sad. For those of you who were here when we did the Makharij, the slides on the Makharij and even Sifat, this is just repeating. But just this time, the only difference is that we're focusing on the mistakes. Yeah, focus on the mistakes. So yeah, I hope after this, inshallah, you'll try avoid these mistakes as much as possible. Next one is Dad. So some people say the da as dal, okay? So فَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. It's not fad. The da sounds like a dal. You know, it's like you don't know which letter it is. Make sure you see the da properly. فَضْرِبُوهُنَّ, not فَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. Fad. This, okay? And then the next one is dad. Some people say that dad too light, like heavy ta. So طائفة. طائفة. Yeah, this is wrong. It should be طائفة. طائفة, not طائفة. This is also a very common mistake. And you got va. The va sometimes too light and it sounds like a del. Similar to the ta. And then you got la'ain. So yeah, this is a very common one. Even last week when I was hearing some of you reading, yeah, people didn't say the a, but say like a. A in English, apple. That's wrong. A and a in English is very different. Okay, this is ain. Wal as, not wal as. Wal as. Make sure that a is. Remember we said in Makharij when we did the slides on Makharij. We said that a comes from the throat. A. I think this is the last slide maybe. Next one we got has a ghain. So some people do not stress enough stress on top of the throat. So the ghain, make sure it's coming right from the top of your throat, okay? And the ghain is very different to the kha as well. This is two letters where it sounds a bit similar but are two different letters. Gha and kha. Okay, kha is a bit more stronger, much more stronger actually. Kha and gha. And then you got qaf. So some people say that qaf too light. You need to make sure that it touches the furthest part of the back of the tongue. Okay, qaf, qa, not ga, qa, qa, quta bajad. And as we know, we said last week as well, the qaf is part of the qut bajad letters. So qaf is part of the qalqala. And then next is kaf. Tongue touch the back of the upper palate. The kaf is not a common mistake. Even the wow, some people let's say the wow as v. So instead of وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ, they say فَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. فَضْرِبُوهُنَّ instead of wow, وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. And then this is, remember, ha and ha. This is just vice versa, other way around. Ha too heavy sounds like ha. Just like how ha was too light sounds like ha. This is too heavy sounds like ha. So people from both sides make this mistake. So some people say the ha too heavy will sound like a ha. So you need to make sure, remember, ha and ha, two different letters. Ha is more like breathing. Ha, okay, and ha is stronger. And yep, alhamdulillah, this is the end. Common statement is not a big topic, of course. This is just an extra thing, maybe to help you, distinguish between letters and look at other people's mistakes and, try to perfect them. So alhamdulillah, this is the slides completed. So we've done Makharij, Sifat, and the common mistake, which we just covered right now. And inshallah, we'll continue the Qaida, as you can remember from last week. Let me just share this. Share. Hopefully you can see my Qaida page. Last week we did, remember, the Arabic alphabets, just Alif to Ya. Inshallah, we will try do the next page, which is joining of the letters now. As you can see, 2 letters here and some of them are 3 at the bottom here. It's been more challenging, but we did this in order to make sure, so I can make sure that you don't do the mistake I just told you now in the last slide, the common mistakes. So inshallah, before we do that, I just want to remind you that this is all done by Simple Quran. So I believe that they've updated their website. They've added some extra information. So for those of you who are, have any questions or, anything to ask about, inshallah, you can just visit the website. You can check it out, inshallah. Maybe join the one-on-one classes. They have, a range of classes. So I really recommend everyone to just visit the website, just check it out, even for a couple of minutes to check out. And yeah, inshallah, should be helpful. So yeah, in order for us to actually do the page, we need some volunteers. So inshallah, if you do want to read, just please put your hand up. And for any sisters who don't want to read to me, you can read to a separate female teacher. I'm sure there's a breakout room, inshallah, where you can, inshallah, join. Just let one of the admins know, and inshallah, they'll take you there. But yeah, any volunteers, inshallah, just please raise your hand and I'll pick you, inshallah. Volunteers, anyone? Okay, alhamdulillah, we got a few people.